Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Diane, and I wish I could tell you today was a happy day. But I'm standing outside this wedding hall, shaking, because of what just happened inside. You don't belong here. Kayla shouted, her voice echoing off the ballroom walls. That girl I raised, my stepdaughter, the one I fed when her own mother walked out, the one I protected when her father got sick, is now screaming at me in front of 200 people in a white dress that I paid for. I invited my real family, Diane. Not the help. I felt my heart stop. The help? Did she just call me the help? I had just walked in with her bouquet, the one she left behind in the dressing room. I thought I was doing something kind. I thought she'd be thankful. But the moment I stepped through those double doors, all eyes were on me, and then, her words cut through the music, through the chatter, through everything. God, do you always have to make things about you? Just leave. You're embarrassing yourself. Her friends were laughing. Her bridesmaids were whispering. One of them, her cousin, I think, had the nerve to smirk right at me. And then, like I didn't even matter, she turned away. I clenched the bouquet so tight that petals started to fall. I was still standing there, stunned, when her father, my husband, came rushing up. Diane, he said quietly, not now. Please don't ruin her day. Ruin her day? Was I not the one who saved every single dime from my waitressing tips to help pay for this very haul? Was I not the one who skipped new clothes, skipped holidays, skipped my own medical bills so she could go to college debt-free? Did anyone even remember how many nights I stayed up to sew her prom dress by hand because we couldn't afford designer? And now I was ruining her day? I turned around and walked out, face burning, hands shaking, heart pounding. But I didn't leave. I wouldn't leave. Because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I still had a speech to give. And I wasn't going to sugarcoat a single word. But before I go back in there and say what needs to be said, let me take you back, to the beginning of all this. Because it didn't start with a white dress and an ungrateful bride. It started with a 6-year-old girl screaming in a grocery aisle because her mother had just abandoned her. That's how Kayla came into my life. Her mom had packed her bags and disappeared, left a note on the fridge and took off with some guy from Texas. And Kayla's dad, Scott, he was shattered. I wasn't even dating him yet. Just the woman who served him coffee at 6 a.m. before his shifts. But that morning, he came in late. Clothes wrinkled. Eyes red. He ordered 2 pancakes and cried into them. When he told me what happened, I don't know what came over me. I just walked out from behind the counter, sat across from him, and said, then let's raise her. You and me. Together. He laughed. Thought I was joking. But I wasn't. 3 months later, Kayla had her own room in my 1-bedroom apartment. A pink one. With clouds painted on the ceiling and glow stars that lit up at night. She cried every night for her mom. And every night, I held her, even when she pushed me away. I didn't sign up to be a mother. But I became one. With no rulebook. No real thanks. Just stubborn love. Back in the present, I sat in the restroom stall wiping my face with the edge of a napkin. I could hear the MC inside saying, let's welcome the bride and groom to the floor for their first dance. So I pulled myself together. I stood up. And I smiled. Because she could ignore me now. She could humiliate me. But she didn't know I had the mic next. I stepped out of the restroom, walked calmly past the whispers, and made my way to the edge of the hall, just in time for the family speeches segment. The best man was already up there, cracking jokes. The crowd was loving it. And when he was done, the DJ turned to the bride and asked, anyone from your side of the family want to say a few words? Kayla smiled sweetly and looked at her birth mother. Oh yes, she had shown up. Dressed like she hadn't missed a single Christmas or birthday. Acting like the perfect guest of honor. And Kayla ate it up. She had told me a week ago she was reconnecting. Said she didn't want to hurt my feelings. And I had smiled and said, of course. But now I saw the truth. She didn't invite me as a mother. She invited me as a maid. So I stood up. I'll say something, I said loud enough for every fork in that hall to freeze midair. All heads turned. Kayla's smile faltered. Scott's eyes widened. Her birth mother raised one perfect eyebrow and folded her arms. And I took the mic. The DJ tried to give it to Kayla instead, but she paused, and nodded at me. I stepped up onto the stage, bouquet still in hand, petals crumbling. My palms were still shaking, but my voice? My voice was steady. My name is Diane. I'm not Kayla's biological mother. But for the past 15 years, I was the one who packed her lunch. Who took her to doctor's appointments? Who stayed up with her when she had nightmares? Who taught her how to braid her hair and make her own breakfast? Who watched her graduate while her birth mom didn't even send a card? I looked at Kayla then. Her face wasn't smiling anymore. She asked me not to make today about me, I said, turning back to the crowd. But this isn't about me. This is about truth. About what real family means. And since this is a day for thank yous, I thought it was time someone remembered who actually showed up. And that's when the silence began. Long, uncomfortable, rippling through the gold-trimmed hall like thunder. I was just getting started. I still remember the first time she called me mom. She was 9. It had been 3 years since her mother left. We were in the kitchen, flour on our hands, making cupcakes for her school's bake sale. She was stirring too fast, and half the batter ended up on the counter. I scolded her lightly, and she giggled. Okay, Mom, I get it. She froze. So did I. She looked up like she'd said a curse word. Her eyes widened, waiting for me to correct her. But I didn't. I just smiled and said, then listen to your mother and clean it up. She smiled back. And in that tiny moment, it felt like every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear I swallowed when she screamed that I wasn't her real mom, was worth it. But if you think that was the turning point in our story, you're wrong. That was just a calm before the storm. Because raising someone else's child isn't like building something brand new. It's like walking into a half-burned house and deciding to live there. Some walls you can fix. Some foundations are cracked forever. And some ghosts you'll never chase out. When Kayla turned 13, things started changing. She was moody, withdrawn. She stopped hugging me. Started saying things like, "You're not my mom anyway," when I set a curfew or said no to something expensive. I tried to be patient. I told myself it was just teenage hormones. But then she started asking questions about her birth mother. Where she was. What happened. Why she left. I was honest. I never badmouthed her. I told Kayla that some people aren't ready to be parents, that it's not her fault. That just because someone gives birth to you doesn't mean they know how to love you. But it didn't matter. Because one day, right before her 15th birthday, she found her on Instagram. I came home to find Kayla on the couch, scrolling through photos. There she was, her real mom. Posing in Cabo, sipping cocktails, wearing designer clothes, smiling like she'd never missed a single day of Kayla's life. She's so pretty, Kayla whispered. Why did she leave? That night, I cried in the bathroom. Quietly. So she wouldn't hear. She started texting her. At first, just updates. Then longer messages. Then calls. And eventually, Kayla began asking me for money to go see her. I couldn't say no. I was afraid if I did, I'd lose her completely. So I gave it. Week after week. I worked double shifts to cover it. Missed sleep. Skipped meals. Just to keep the peace. Just to let her chase whatever fantasy she'd built around that woman. And what did she do in return? She started hiding things from me. New earrings. New shoes. Perfumes that I never bought. And one day I walked into her room and saw a birthday card sitting on her dresser. To my beautiful daughter, I'm sorry I've missed so much. I'm here now. Love, Mom. She had never kept any of my cards. Still, I pushed through. When she turned 18 and got into college, guess who co-signed the loans? Me. When she couldn't afford the dorm room, I gave up my retirement savings so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. I sold the bracelet my mother gave me, the only thing I had left of her, just so Kayla could have a laptop she said she needed for class. And when she called me crying after her first heartbreak, guess who drove 3 hours to sit with her on a dorm room floor? Me. Even then, she never introduced me to her friends as her mom. Just Diane. But I still cooked for her when she visited. Still sent her care packages. Still lit candles on her birthdays, even the ones she didn't come home for. I was never enough to celebrate, just enough to depend on. Until the wedding came. That's when the cracks turned into a full collapse. She told me her birth mother was coming. Said she wanted her there. I said okay, I wasn't going to compete. I thought we could coexist. But then came the guest list. And I wasn't on it. It's just logistics, she said. You'll still be there, of course, but we had to keep the list clean for seating. I smiled through it. And paid for half the catering anyway. She asked if I could help with the dress. I took out a small loan. She asked if I could handle the decorations, said she was too stressed to deal with it. I spent nights folding napkins and wrapping centerpieces. Alone. The week before the wedding, I asked her if she wanted me to say something at the reception. She paused for a long moment. Then said, maybe. But keep it short, okay? Nothing too emotional. Not emotional? After everything I gave? Everything I did? Everything I became? So when I stood there today, holding that microphone, watching her fake mother beam from her seat like some queen who never bled for her own child, I made a decision. This wasn't going to be a cute little toast. This wasn't going to be some polite thank you moment. This was going to be the truth. Raw. Real. Unfiltered. Because if she couldn't honor the woman who actually raised her, I would. I'd honor myself. I stood up with the mic in my hand, my fingers shaking, but not from fear. From fury. From years of being silent. Of being humble. Of being ignored. Kayla turned her head toward me, her veil tilted just slightly. Her eyes widened, like she'd forgotten I was even sitting there. Like my presence was a background detail she'd missed. Please welcome Diane, the DJ said. The bride step, mother figure. Mother figure. Not mother. Not parent. Not even family. The crowd clapped politely, then fell quiet. And I began. My name is Diane. Some of you know me as the woman who helped raise Kayla. Some of you might not know me at all. That's okay. I'm used to being invisible. There were a few nervous chuckles. Some glances. Her husband shifted in his seat. But let me tell you a little story. About a girl who lost her mom, and the woman who picked up the pieces. The room went still. I saw Kayla sit up straighter, her smile tightening. She didn't choose me. And I didn't come with a manual. I burned toast, ruined laundry, and cried in the shower more nights than I can count. But I showed up. Every day. Even when she hated me. Even when she screamed that I wasn't her real mother. The silence thickened. I never tried to replace anyone. I just wanted her to have someone to depend on. Someone who didn't walk away. I paused, long enough to hear someone gasp softly. Probably her cousin. Maybe her new in-laws. Someone who had no idea how deep this story really ran. I remember one winter, she got pneumonia. She was burning up, hallucinating, sobbing in her sleep. I sat on the floor of her room all night, holding her hand. Whispering, "You're not alone. You're not alone." Over and over. My voice cracked. I let it. And when her real mother didn't answer the phone for 3 days, because she was in Vegas or Bali or wherever she was, I stayed up through the night watching her chest rise and fall, just praying she'd make it to morning. I scanned the room. She did. And I never told anyone about that night until now. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because that's what love does. It stays. Even when it gets nothing in return. Kayla's eyes were shiny now. But she still hadn't stood. Still hadn't reached for me. So I kept going. When she graduated, I was the one in the bleachers screaming her name. When she got her first job and was too scared to walk in on day one, I was the one who drove her there. Waited in the car. Just in case. I laughed bitterly. She didn't mention me in her speech. Not even once. But I was there. I've always been there. Someone cleared their throat. Maybe the officiant. Maybe someone uncomfortable with how raw it was getting. I'm not here to ruin anything. This is still her day. But I won't be a ghost in the room I built anymore. I won't be the woman who gave everything and got labeled step like I was just a placeholder. I turned to her then. Locked eyes. I may not have given birth to you. But I gave you my life. Piece by piece. Bit by bit. I stitched together a childhood for you out of broken pieces you don't even remember. And maybe one day, when the makeup fades and the dress yellows and the guests forget what your centerpieces looked like, you'll remember who stayed. Who held you up when no one else even showed up. Kayla's lips parted. She looked like she wanted to say something. But I wasn't done. I came here with a speech. Pages and pages of sweet memories. But I tore it up before I stood. Because I realized. I've spent enough years telling soft stories to protect hard people. This is my truth. I stepped away from the mic. And the room didn't move. Didn't breathe. I could feel the weight of it settle into their bones. Into hers. She stood slowly, like her knees had buckled under the weight of what I said. Took a step toward me. "Wait," she whispered. But I was already walking back down the aisle. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because I had finally said it. And whether she ever thanked me or not, she would never, ever forget this speech. I didn't expect her to follow me. I didn't even look back. The air outside the venue was cold and sharp, like it knew something had just broken. I could hear the music inside, muffled by thick walls. But it sounded distant now. Like it belonged to a different world. A world where I was only ever invited as an afterthought. And then I heard the door slam open behind me. "Diane." Her voice cracked, high and panicked. She had run out after me in her wedding gown. Ivory satin brushing the pavement. Her veil flapping in the wind like it was trying to fly away from her head. "Diane, wait, please." I didn't stop. Not until I felt her hand grab my wrist. "You can't just say all that and walk away," she said, breathless. I turned around slowly. Her mascara was running now. Her chest heaved in and out. But I wasn't moved, not yet. "Why not?" I said, calm but burning. "I've walked away quietly for most of your life. You never stopped me before." She blinked, as if slapped. "That's not fair." "No," I interrupted. "What's not fair is being the person who sacrifices everything, only to be erased at your biggest moment like I never existed." Kayla looked down. Then back up. Her voice dropped, softer now. "I didn't mean to. I just thought people wouldn't understand. It was easier to thank my aunt, and Mom." I laughed. It was short and hollow. "Your aunt who sent you a card twice a year. And your real mom who bailed on your 12th birthday because she had plans? That's who you wanted the world to see?" I didn't know what to say. "You say the truth, Kayla," I snapped. You say, this woman raised me when no one else would. She fed me, clothed me, sat by my bed while I cried for someone who stopped calling years ago. That's what you say. Tears slipped down her face now. But I didn't comfort her. Not this time. You don't get to forget me when it's convenient and call me family behind closed doors, I said. I didn't sign up for part-time motherhood. I was scared, she shouted suddenly. I didn't know how people would react. I thought maybe I'd offend someone, or make things awkward. So you erased me to protect their feelings? I asked, incredulous. What about mine? She didn't answer. For the first time in years, she was speechless. I sold my wedding ring to pay for your college application fees, I said quietly. Did you know that? She gasped. Her lips trembled. No. I didn't. Of course not, I said. I never told you. Because I didn't want to burden you. Because that's what moms do. We bleed quietly. We break quietly. We love loudly. And in the end, we hope that somehow, you'll remember. Kayla stepped forward, as if the weight of my words knocked the air from her chest. I do remember, she whispered. I remember everything now. No, I said, eyes hard. You remember now because I reminded you. Because I had to fight for my place in a life I helped build. Silence. The kind that vibrates in your bones. Then, finally, she fell to her knees. Right there. On the cold sidewalk. Her dress pooling around her. Her hands gripping her chest like her heart had just caved in. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I was so stupid. I got caught up in the fantasy. The perfect wedding. The perfect photo album. And I pushed away the only person who truly earned a place in those pictures. I knelt beside her. And for the first time that day, maybe the first time ever, she didn't look at me as a step anything. She looked at me like a daughter who had finally remembered who her real mother was. You were never second to me, Diane, she said through her tears. I didn't know how to say thank you loud enough. So I said nothing. And that was the worst choice I've ever made. I exhaled. The tightness in my chest loosening, just a little. You still have time to make it right, I said. She looked up. I don't deserve to, she whispered. No, I said gently. But you're still my daughter. And that's the difference between a parent and everyone else. We forgive, even when it hurts. She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around me. Her body shaking with the kind of regret that doesn't go away overnight. And for once, I let her cry without holding her together. She needed to break. She needed to understand. Only then could she rebuild. The music had stopped by the time we walked back in. People were whispering. Heads turned. Cameras had long been lowered. The tension from my speech still clung to the walls like fog that hadn't lifted. But now, I wasn't alone. Kayla walked beside me, hand wrapped tightly around mine, dress slightly dirted from kneeling on the pavement, mascara smudged but eyes clear. When she reached the microphone again, she didn't hesitate this time. She didn't fumble. She didn't look at her groom for help. Or the audience for approval. She looked only at me. And her voice, when it came, was steady, soft, but powerful enough to silence the room. I need to say something, she began. Actually, I need to fix something. Her guest shifted, unsure. I stood here a few minutes ago and gave a speech I thought everyone wanted to hear. I thanked the people I thought were expected. I followed a script. A script that left out the person who actually raised me. There was movement in the crowd now. Quiet gasps. A few people tilted their heads, clearly confused. Kayla breathed in, then continued. My mother, my biological one, left when I was a child. She couldn't handle the responsibility. And for a long time I told myself it was my fault. That if I had been a better kid, maybe she would have stayed. She glanced at me, her voice trembling for the first time. But the truth is, I did have a mother. Just not the kind that gives birth and walks away. The kind that stays. The kind that works double shifts, skips meals, and sells her wedding ring just to get you through school. Gasps rippled again. This time louder. She turned fully toward me now. The microphone forgotten. Her voice rising. Diane. You were never just my stepmother. You were my constant. My foundation. My protector. And I can't believe I almost let your love go unacknowledged today. I can't believe I let you sit at that table and wonder if any of it mattered. My throat tightened. I felt the room spin. Every guest turned toward me now, eyes wide, some shimmering with tears. Today, I wore white, Kayla said, but you're the reason I walked down the aisle with dignity. You're the reason I know what it means to fight for someone, to stay for someone. She stepped away from the mic completely and walked up to me. I didn't call you Mom for a long time because I thought I'd be betraying someone else. But now I realize the real betrayal is not saying it to you. And then she did. She looked me dead in the eyes. Her hands trembling as she reached for mine. I love you, Mom. The word hit harder than anything I'd ever expected. She didn't whisper it in secret. She didn't write it in a card. She said it in front of everyone. And I broke. Right there in that crowded hall, in front of waiters and cousins and strangers in heels and tuxedos, I cried like the mother I'd always been. The mother finally seen. She hugged me again. This time, the crowd clapped. Then stood. And the sound filled every crack that silence had once invaded. Her groom stepped forward, smiling softly. He reached for her hand, but not before nodding at me, this silent look of respect I'd never received from him before. I nodded back. Because now he knew, he wasn't just marrying her. He was marrying the legacy I built. The rest of the night passed like a dream. People came up to me offering apologies, compliments, even handshakes that lingered longer than they needed to. A few of them even cried. One older woman with a cane squeezed my hand and said, I raised my grandkids too. I know what it means to feel invisible. I smiled. We shared that pain. We also shared that justice, at last. And when the final song played, and the bride danced with her husband, she broke tradition. She didn't call her father for the father-daughter dance. She called me. No announcement. No spotlight. Just her hand reaching out toward me, and her lips saying quietly. For the first dance, with my mom. As we danced. Slow and swaying, tears brushing cheeks, we weren't just making up for one speech. We were healing a lifetime of silence. And in that moment, I wasn't Diane the stepmother. I wasn't the woman who stood alone while others clapped for everyone else. I was something far more powerful. I was the woman who stayed. I was the mother who chose her child. And finally, I was the one being chosen back. At the end of this story, I have some question. Please comment, share your thoughts. Do you think loyalty matters more than blood? Let us know your thoughts.